welcome to NAPOD, where we provide NA speaker meetings and workshops in a podcast. We are an ad-free podcast, and if you enjoy listening, please help us to be self-supporting by visiting napod.xyz, look for the donate link, and drop $1 or $2 in the virtual basket. If you're also in AA or have friends that are, please tell them about our other podcast, Sobercast. Sobercast features AA speakers and workshops in the same format as NAPOD. We upload a new speaker every day, and it's easy to subscribe by searching for Sobercast, that's 2 words, on any podcast player app, or go to Sobercast.com. Enjoy the podcast, and thanks for listening.
Thanks, Gary. My name's Rachael. I'm an addict.
Hey, Rachael.
And thanks, Dave, as well for your chair. I really enjoyed that. And yeah, it was just brilliant to hear about, your story about if you keep coming back. If you do just keep coming back, you can get clean and actually see some of the benefits as well. It's lovely to hear about. I've been thinking about what I'm going to say. I don't actually believe people when they say I haven't thought about what I'm going to say. I haven't thought about it, and I just think, right, you're either lying or you're really irresponsible. Because I've thought about it, and sit in a room full of people and get a bit vulnerable. I thought of little else today. And because I've been doing quite a lot of time travelling lately, as a result of an unexpected spate of step 9, I was wondering where to start really in terms of a narrative structure. I don't know how much sense this is going to make, and I'm just hoping it will join up a little bit. When Gary starts doing hand signals at me, but I'm actually going to start it in 1987, so that's where I've spent a lot of my time recently, revisiting my past. In 1987, I turned 16, and all I wanted to do was get out of my home, my family, my school, my life, and everything that sort of surrounded it. So the week I turned 16, I thought the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to go and get a job, and I'm going to get out of here. And that's just exactly what I did. I went into town. The week I turned 16, I went into town and got a job. And it wasn't long after that. And I went to work, because I left school with some rather insubstantial CSEs. So I had to go to McDonald's and work there. And the other people that worked in McDonald's were either students who were actually going to make something of themselves and needed some money during the holidays, or people like me who didn't really, underachieve, as she say, were working with me at McDonald's. And what we were really interested in was mostly getting drunk and evading work, and we had a really, really good time doing that. And as soon as I could, I left my life as I'd known it till that point, and just up and left, moved into town with my new friends, who could all get served, and had quite a laugh, actually. I had a flatmate, and it was like my pre-using year. It was my warm-up year, if you will. What happened sort of towards the end of that year is it was becoming apparent that my sort of vigour for getting out of my head was a bit, because at the time it looked like everyone was a bit mashed up, you know, but actually what started becoming apparent sort of towards the end of that year was that I was a little bit more out of control than they were, and then they started trying to kind of intervene with that. These were people that were kind of a little bit older than me, were sort of trying to take care of me a bit. And they started to tell me, often while they had a drink in their hand, that I was getting a little bit out of hand. So it was hard to take them seriously, to be honest. But they did, and my flatmate, who was these were other displaced people who I was with, and you know they tried to get me to calm down a bit, and I took umbrage with that. And just started hanging out with the punks in town, because that was their particular subculture was already a perfect excuse for all my behaviour that I already had. So that was, you know, I could blend in quite well there. All my antisocial behaviour was all punk rock, was harmless. And so I started running about with them and running off to London and taking acid, which was a really bad idea for a person like me. I really didn't need hallucinogenics. I could get there without them. And what happened was those kinds of the little sort of like traces of trappings of normal life that my other friends were kind of managing to hang on to, like jobs and bed sits and relationships with each other. One by one, I just started kind of letting go of those things, and you know, within a matter of months, it was a very different story. As soon as I let go of having somewhere to live, initially I felt quite relieved, not having to try and keep it all together and trying to keep a job and trying to, you know, initially it felt like a bit like, right, let go of all that, I'm just going to run around and take drugs. But it just so quickly became the ways and means to get more was my entire existence. I had nothing, you know, that was what I got up for, and that was sort of my motivation for everything I did. And everything else just started going out the window really quickly, and the freedom of homelessness wore off very quickly. And within, you know, when I first left that bed, I'll just stay somewhere for a couple of weeks, and then I'll just get something sorted out. I never got anything sorted out. And I had to go and stay on the site or stay on the squats, and it weren't about little trips to London to take acids and go to jitter parties. I was you know, sleeping on air vents and concentrating on not getting my head kicked in at night, and that was my using life. And in some ways, from this point in time, I consider myself lucky that I wasn't chasing a fun time that I started out with. You know, I had that warm-up year in a park with my working friends, but then that was it. Once I really picked up, and all the wheels came off, it was like a lorry with the brakes failed going down a hill. With a certain, you know, with all the feeling of the momentum of it and the inevitability of a very, very messy ending. And I couldn't stand it. I hated using. Lucky for me, I really hated using. I hated the boredom. I hated the degradation. I hated sitting around waiting for an unpleasant person to control me with a substance that And I'd had enough. Within another year of that, by the time I got to 18, I'd had enough of living altogether. I didn't, I was displaced before drugs. I was completely barking on them. I couldn't see any way out. And I was 18, I was on a site, hated everyone, I hated myself, and I wanted to die. And so I slashed my wrists, and I got taken off the site, put in a psychiatric hospital, and whacked up with, I don't know what do you call them, psycho, whatever nutty drugs they give you, I don't know, the posh ones, where you go, those drugs put you in a jumpsuit and ask you who the Prime Minister is, them ones, yeah. So, they sent me off to the nut house when my behaviour was quite appropriate. Unfortunately, what I found out is that, in the late 80s, in acute psychiatric wards, there wasn't access to a lot of facilities other than antipsychotic drugs and a bit of occupational therapy. You might make a nice collage about your feelings, but that was kind of the long and short of it. And unfortunately, once you're in a system like that, like any other system, it tells us where it's going to take us: hospitals, jails, institutions, and death. There was my institution, and that was my prison. Once you've been handed into one of them places, it's not often you're not often on a single trip, because every time you get out of that, after that, someone can just put you in. And there's no end date, there's no sentences, there's no one. If you're an addict and you're a pain in the arse wherever you go, and people don't know what to do with you, not out of malice, but if they just, they can just stand you in, and then you have to go away and get coshed until you can kind of, talk your way out of it again. Anyway, I fast forward because the rest of it's just grim as that anyway, so it don't get any better. I just lost some bones and got a record, and there was other nasty people. That's more and more of the same. That's it for years. And then I was in that hospital on a detox, which at the time was on the same nutty ward that I used to get, have my holidays. And they used to just whack you up with a load of naltrexone and then stand by with a crush trolley and let you out 7 days later. That was my 1994 naltrexone detox. It was blinding. And what happened was that went sort of spectacularly wrong. I got very sick and was in limbo in this hospital, not knowing what kind of detox I was on now, because I don't know, they had to stop giving me some drugs. I wasn't getting enough drugs. I don't know what I am. I'm not on a methadone detox. I'm not on this detox. I don't know where I am. And that's when I saw the poster. That's when I saw the poster for NA and rang up the helpline, which was an answer phone with a list of names, and rang one, and it came and got me. And it took me. Paul F came and got me from that hospital, and he took me to a meeting. He didn't take me to a meeting, he took me to the UK convention. It was just like a really big meeting. And I was 7 days clean, and I was terrified. Through the time I was there, and this weekend, at the time, it didn't always used to be in Birmingham, we did used to have other cities in the country before that. And what used to happen was you used to move around the regions, and the week I got clean, this is one of them coincidences, one of them time travel coincidences. The week I got clean, it was in my town, in Norwich. And what are the odds? Never going there again, is it? Do you know what I mean? And I was walking around all weekend pretending to be looking for someone because I didn't want to look out of place. And then I got to, I hadn't met anyone who was newer than me. And I've been hearing about this countdown, and it didn't sound like a lot of fun to me, to be honest, and I was a bit nervous about it. And when I was sitting in the auditorium in the UEA and waiting for this countdown, and people were saying, "Oh, it's brilliant, they count down," and everyone's shouting. Oh, shouting, yeah, and they're clapping and banging. What? It's like, yeah. And you go and get a book, and everyone's like, sort of wanted the book. But I was panicking because I thought, what if there's no one newer than me? I'm 7 days, I haven't met anyone. Everyone else is huge, clean. Like, what if there's no one else? What if I had to go up on my own? And I didn't have to go up on my own. I went up with all the other terrified people while everyone else shouted and carried on like Americans. I'm sorry to the Americans. I'm sorry to the Americans, but like the hitting thing is not right. Do you know what I mean? That banging you thing, it was like being on Gladiator. You had to go. I was clucking. Give me a break. So anyway, that was my condition. That's where I made my decision. That was my first experience of Step 3. I sat in that auditorium. And I thought, right, I can go home. My flat is full of using addicts and drugs right now. I can go home. I can say no more about this. Or I can get up. I can get that book, and I can give this my best shot. And that is what I did. That's where I got, the woman who sponsored me. We went to that university, and 5 years later I graduated from that university with my first class degree. And on the way, with my family, who I'd kind of built enough bridges with at the time to go along with, and I remember going on my way to get that degree, which was being presented to me by Salman Rushdie, I didn't need the hallucinogenics, that was all still operating in my life. And I remember being on my way, going to get my degree from Salman Rushdie, and my ex-husband, we drove past him, and I didn't live there then, I was living in another country working, and he walked past me. We were driving one way to go and get this degree from Salman Rushdie. He was walking the other way to go to the chemist, and I knew where he was going. And I was going to the future, and he was still going to the past. And it's sad sometimes. Sad to leave the past behind sometimes, we've left people back there. So anyway, that's my UEA time travel story. So I've done that one. So then I decided to leave again, to leave where I was, move on, and I was trying to get back to where my family were. And I put my council flat on the Home Swap website, and this woman rang me up, and she said, I haven't got exactly what you want. What I wanted was a 2-bedroom flat in Bristol for a 2-bedroom flat in Norwich. She said, I haven't got exactly what you want. And I said, what have you got? She said, I want a 1-bedroom flat in London. I thought, that's nothing like what I want. That's completely opposite to what I want, in fact. And she said, I think I know you. And I thought, oh, prank. She don't put things on the internet, you know what I mean? And it turns out she did. She heard me do a chair in a treatment centre in Munsley. She said, I think I know you. She said, look. She said, have you had any joy trying to sort your class? I said, no. She said, well, I need to get out of London. It's going to kill me. I keep using here, and I can't get away, and I really want to move. Anyway, long and short of it was, I ended up swapping with her. and unwittingly moving to London into my new life. I thought I was en route, I thought I was just going sort of, southwest, and I wasn't. I ended up coming here and walking into a meeting. I got where to find and an A to Z, and I had a little look, and I thought, right, that's where I'm going to walk my dogs, and that's where I'm going to go to my meetings, and that's where I'm going to go swimming. I thought, I've got all my bases covered, that's fine, I can move to London, put the dog on a train and go just went. I don't know, I don't know if I'd be able to do that now. And I walked into a meeting in Camden, in Buck Street, and just got all my new friends, sort of in one hit. That's how that works. That's what it allowed me to do. I'd done the steps. I'd cleared the way, cleared the stuff out, was moving forward. Went to London, walked into a room. Met all these people who then turned out to be all my friends and my husband. Just all sat in this meeting, just waiting for me to arrive. That's sort of, just walking into my life, and that's that's been my experience of my life in recovery and through the steps. Is just eventually I end up just walking into my life. And, I got married. That was one thing I didn't think that was available to me. It's one blanket statement I used to attach myself was I can't do relationships. And it wasn't that I couldn't do them, it was that I had some damage to sort out, and some more wreckage from the past, and I had to go, I've got outside help with that, and did manage that and married someone that I met here, and I'm very happy with that. So, going back a year, so things have happened in the last year. They're all kind of significant to this fate of step 9 and exactly where I am today. I was ticking along. I was coming up for 20 years clean. I was running marathons. Like a lot. I obviously got no compulsion left, but I was running a lot of marathons. And, I had a bit of work stress, but other than that, things were ticking over. And then all of a sudden, one day, one of my arms stopped working. So I did what we usually do, when we get some pain, just went to Roz and moaned about it. And when that didn't work, I eventually, then the other arm stopped working. And the crux was I walked into a Cafe Nero and ordered a coffee, and the girl put the coffee on the counter, and I realised I couldn't get it down. And I thought maybe I'd better go to the doctor. Pass my resistance and find out what it was, and what happened was quite quickly this kind of started attacking all my joints, and I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which came completely out of the blue, put on all kinds of horrible medication with loads of side effects, and fell into a depression. It's not the first depression I've had in recovery. No, don't know if it will be the last. It's not really. It's a day thing, but I didn't know. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how long anything was going to last. I didn't know what was what. I didn't know what was an illness. What was me being stubborn, hopeless. I didn't know what was a side effect of a drug. The drugs have an effect. All drugs have an effect, and I didn't know what the effects were. That's very scary as well. In order to reduce the side effects of the worst of the drugs, they changed them to be injectable drugs, which carries its own issues. And I didn't really know. I didn't know what was going to happen, and my life as I'd known it for those recent times just stopped. I had all these marathons booked, couldn't get to them, trips and holidays and this going on and that going on. I was running 30 miles a week, eating like a person who ran 30 miles a week. My life as I knew it just hit a wall again. And I didn't know, I didn't know how to kind of get out of that. And then going back a couple of months this year. It was my birthday, and one of my friends was going to a meditation, a guided meditation, which usually if someone suggested that to me, it probably wouldn't be my cup of tea. What with the sitting still and the no telly, do you know what I mean? It was a friend who I trusted and wasn't necessarily their cup of tea either, so I thought they're getting something from it, and I went to that. And it was about, what I did find out is that chronic pain and mindfulness aren't a great combination, because you're just really still and you just think that hurts. Oh, that hurts. Do you know what I mean? But one thing that was really, that actually there was a penny dropped for me, was when the person said, they were talking about being in the present. And I used to focus a lot about being in the present, because I was such a terrified person. I was so terrified when I got clean I was going to go out and use drugs again. So when they were talking about being in the present, I hadn't realised that I was no longer spending any time in the present. I was either resenting and regretting the past, or dreading and fearing the future. I was back in that place where I was either in the past, in the future, all negative, not sitting in a nice memory thinking about how lovely that was. I'm in the past and the future, and not spending any time in the present. And it was actually, it was a real wake-up call. And what it did was it just gave me a little slap into a state of open-mindedness that allowed other things to start coming into my life and allowed things to start moving again. One morning I woke up, and it happens sometimes on an flare. I'd wake up about 4 o'clock in the morning and had to take some paracetamol and wait for things to and move my arms and wait for it to settle down. It was one of those days, and I woke up and I'd had this dream about this girl from 1987. And I woke up and I started trying to find her. Now, back in the day, step 9 used to be quite easy when there was no internet. Because you used to just go, those people show up when they're ready. And then you'd sit there 200 miles away going, not ready yet. And then someone invented Facebook. And as an addict, our sort of obsessive compulsive nature, stalking comes quite naturally to us quite often, so we can find them people if we want to find them. And I found my flatmate from 1987, and I messaged her. But when I looked, she weren't someone who was particularly active on her, so I found someone else who I was friends with, and I sent her a friend request. And within minutes, all these people started popping up, going, oh my God, where have you been? Where have you been for the last 27 years? So I had a bit of answering to do, do you know what I mean? About why I'd abandoned those people. When they started trying to help me, why I'd run away from them. And what's happened in my life to facilitate the changes through the steps, where now when I'm in an uncomfortable position, I don't have to abandon everyone and run away and hide. I can go and say if I'm wrong or say what I've done. So I've had to go back and make amends to my friends who think it's hilarious, the idea of amends. They're like, you've got a list. And then they started talking among themselves, trying to think up other people to put on it. And then I'm nearly done. They're going, oh, you made that Neil cry, that's... I don't even remembering. Do you know what I mean? Sorry for that. No, we're talking real harm here. Do you know what I mean? Tomorrow I'm going to go and see them in person. I'm going to go back to 1987. St. Kingston Rugby Club, see my friends to say sorry in person for leaving them when they tried to help me. I've seen the one that I've been to see the flatmate one, the main one, and my experience of step 9 is it's never how I think it's going to be. and just like I thought, when I let go of my job and my home and flung myself headfirst into the chasm that became my using and thought I was relinquishing responsibility, what I was actually getting was imprisoned. And when I got clean and I started taking responsibility, ironically, what I actually got was freedom. And it says it's very, when you read the step 9, it's very short, so it's only 2 pages, because there's enough to say, you've just got to get on with it, that stuff. And what I found from it, all the fear, is the fear that will keep me from making the change, just like the fear of withdrawing kept me using. And the fear of change, the fear of actually going and saying what I've done, and that was wrong, and I'm sorry. That keeps me shackled with the things from the past. So that's, I haven't got fear about going to do that tomorrow. I'm a little bit nervous because they're good at remembering things. And also, they were drunk too. They're not reliable sources of information. I've got to take certain. But I'm present, and I'm committed, and I can go and I can be in those friendships and not run away. And that's what it's given me right through my life. I can go and stay there and not run away. I want responsibility in my life. I'm back in touch with my family. That still has its, that's still not easy stuff. But I don't just go missing anymore, because it just doesn't cut it. It's just it's just not good enough. If you're new here, please keep coming back, because we need your stories. That's what saves our lives. Is people telling their stories. And when we come in, we listen to it, we run. I used to love it. I used to love a news story, especially I was in a small town. If someone came in with a news story, and the worse it was, the better I loved it. I wanted to hear what you'd used, because I needed to identify with that. Do you know what I mean? And I needed that specific identification. But my favourite stories were stories of people who really, had a lot of responsibility in their lives and a lot going on in their lives, who would tell these most horrendous stories about where they'd come from. And those people disarmed me of all my excuses not to try and change my life for the better. And they gave me all the courage I needed and all the hope that I needed to be able to make those changes as well. So if you are new, please keep coming back, because we need your stories. We need to hear them. If we just, if I don't come here and tell my story's not worth anything. It might be quite, it might be mildly entertaining to some of my normal friends for, if they can't get Channel 4, I don't know. But it's without actually, there's no meaning to it if I can't use it for anything. I came in using, sick, frightened, couldn't get a day clean. Last weekend I was 21 years clean.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please help us improve our ranking so others can find us by putting a review on Stitcher, iTunes, or your favorite podcast index. Nawpod is ad-free thanks to the folks supporting the show with $1 or more per month. If you enjoy listening, you can join them by going to nawpod.xyz and looking for the donate link. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.